Coach Marc Montoya. I am the owner and head coach at Factory X here in Inglewood, Colorado, and it's a pleasure being a part of this. So I got started in martial arts really young, actually. I was super interested in boxing. At the time, mixed martial arts, quote unquote, the UFC, those kind of things just didn't exist in my world yet when I was a young kid. But boxing was always something that I loved. I mean, I loved to watch boxing. I boxed as a kid. That was my initial start, was boxing. And I obviously wrestled at a younger age too. I enjoyed wrestling, but my first love was always in boxing. That's something that I always loved. And funny story is, I asked my mom if I could box, and my mom said absolutely not. And of course, most moms are going to say that. And I was like, come on, Mom, why can't I box? And she was like, you're not doing that. So I told my mom I was playing basketball, and I'd go to the school and I'd pretend I was going to basketball practice. And then I'd run the railroad tracks from Federal and Alameda to 6th and Inca to St. Joe's Boxing Club. That's where I went, and I'd go over there and I just fell in love with it quickly. And I'd come home and I'd have black eyes or a bloody lip or a fat lip, and my mom would, what happened? I'd say I got elbowed in basketball practice. And I didn't think it through so well, because at the end of the day, my coach said to me, hey, we want you to compete. Here's a waiver, take it and have your mom sign it, and then they're gonna have to bring you to the venue. I didn't think that through so hot. So it's one of those things where it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And so when I went home, obviously my mom was not happy with me and told me, if you don't win this fight, you're done with this. Well, fortunately for me, or I guess however you want to spin it, I was able to be successful in that, and now we're sitting here many, many years later, just thoroughly enjoying martial arts. So I was a multi-sport athlete as a child. I loved team sports. Football was one of my first loves. I played baseball, I played basketball. I did actually play basketball, by the way. I played soccer. I played a lot of team sports just to see. I did some gymnastics. I did a lot of different things to see if I could, what I enjoyed. And the two sports that I really gravitated towards was football and baseball. And those are minus, the martial arts aspect of boxing or any of that, wrestling, that type of thing. The two team sports I loved were football and baseball. And I was fortunate enough, as a freshman in high school, to play on the varsity. I was fortunate enough to go and get a scholarship to play college baseball. I was fortunate enough to just enjoy that type of thing. And baseball and football and those type of team sports taught me a lot when it comes to just myself as a person, but also perseverance, absolutely having a short memory. I mean, in baseball you fail so much, and if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're considered an all-star. Well, that means 7 times you failed. So at that point, it's just perseverance and you learning how to stay within yourself and not get out of that. And so those team sports taught me a lot, and also the team dynamic has taught me a lot. That's something that I've really pulled from my experience as a child and then as a college athlete, is the team aspect. And that's something that I know sets us apart here at Factory X with our team, because we are an actual team. That culture is that, and that's something that I learned just along my way as being a student athlete, college athlete, and then of course now a head coach at one of the best gyms in the world. So reading books has been something that I was not great at all, especially as a younger man, as a kid. It's something that I struggled with. I actually have a college degree in journalism, and I always loved to write, but I didn't love to read, which is kind of backwards. And so I had to really dive in and learn how to process information via reading. And part of that was, I knew it was going to make my writing better. And so as a student in college, I just really decided, I need to dive into reading books. And man, there was some painful stuff that I had to go through because I just did not enjoy that process. And one of the things I realized though is that I was reading the wrong books at first. I was reading stuff that people enjoyed but I didn't enjoy. And it's not about what they enjoy, it's just about the content, gathering information, learning, understanding history, all those type of things. So I started real simple with just sports. I mean, I've always loved sports, and I started to read sports books, autobiographies, those type of things. And it was amazing because there was a lot of parallels, doesn't matter who you read about, but they all have the same type of stuff. And one of the things that I came up with on my own exploration was they all have commitment, they all have consistency, and they all sacrifice their butt off. And I kind of just pulled from my own thinking and from my own reading that all these people I'm reading about, that's basically what they're doing, is that they're doing those three things. And so one of the challenges that I gave to my team in 2019, at the end of 2019, was, hey, I want to challenge you guys to, as a team, let's read a book a month in 2020. We started it in 2019, but in 2020, let's complete 2020 with 12 books read. And I came up with a list. Now, what I'd like to do in the future is have them come up with a list, but we've got to start somewhere. So the reading of the books is we work every single day on our body here at Factory X. We train, we do strength conditioning, we run, we do all these things with our body. And yes, we're growing mentally with our technique, but are we growing off of the mat? Because that has always been my two priorities. First and foremost, help you become a world champion in life. And second, help you become a world champion in the cage. And it really does go in that order. So if I'm going to preach that and say that and want them to do that, then I in turn, as their coach and leader, I felt like it's important that we dive into the mental side, that the mental side sets us apart from everyone else. And so, getting a connection with the athletes, it's important because we have to be able to speak the same language. And if I'm saying something from a book that I just read and it just goes straight over their head, it doesn't matter if I know it. What matters is if we know it. And so, there's a quote that says the best definition of a great coach is not what I know, it's what your students can show that they know. And that's the fact. And so when I looked at it, I was like, I read all these books. I struggled reading these books like a lot of my fighters do. And I looked at it at first like an assignment. And that's why I said, this is not an assignment. This is a growth opportunity. And I struggled with it. So I get it. It's not something that was easy for me, but it's something that I enjoy. In January of 2020, I read 6 books in January in a month. I've never done that in my entire life, read that many books in 1 month. And so, I'm pushing myself too. It's not just them. I'm asking them to read 1 a month, but I want to push myself too to reach newer heights and gain more knowledge and be able to give back. And let's get on the same page and speak the same language. And first and foremost, it's not about being a world champion in the cage. You got to be a world champion in life first, then everything else will follow. Sorry, I got to pour some coffee here. I got to make sure I'm hyped for you guys. So accountability to me is everything. And some of it is my own insecurities, to be honest with you. The being late thing, that's something my mother was just notorious for my whole life. And it drove me crazy because whether it was a game or school or anything in life, she was consistently late for, which meant I was late for it, which in turn meant that I'd get reprimanded for that. And so accountability at a young age, I knew instantly, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this as an adult. I'm not. I'm not going to do this as a young teenager. I'm not going to do this as a child. And so accountability to me became really, really big because of the problem was when I'd show up, I would feel embarrassed that I'd get reprimanded, and because I was late. And I understood early that I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling. And I can't control this, but it's happening, so how can I control it? So I just stopped asking my mom to give me rides. I started running and riding my bike, and then I was on time. And I felt early at a young age that this is what it's about for me. Accountability like this is what it's about. And so as I'm older, adult, and as my fighters are younger and coming up and trying to become world champions in life and in the cage, accountability is huge. I mean, it's huge. It's how you do one thing is how we do everything, how we do all things. That to me is a huge statement. And so if we're late consistently, it means that we're not focused when we get on the mat. And so it's like this spiraling effect. If I wake up and I hit my snooze alarm, my snooze every single second, and I wait till the nth degree to get up, it's not the way to do it. And I've done it before, so it's not like I'm preaching at anyone. I've done all this stuff that I'm saying not to do. So one of the comments I make a lot is, if you can listen to me for 10, 15, 20 minutes, you'll learn all the hardships that I've learned in 45 years. So why not listen for 10 minutes? And so otherwise, you have to do what I did and go hard knocks route, live 45 years, learn it all the hard way, and then look back and go, oh shit, that person or that coach or that teacher or that parent, they were right. But why wait till you're 45? The accountability is huge. Accountability is how you do one thing is how you do all things. And that's something that I preach on a daily basis. What I did is I found this coin, and I made this coin. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I made this coin, and you know, I wanted to find something that meant something beyond a t-shirt or a word or a book. And I looked at the military, who I have so much respect for. I looked at the police force, I looked at the fire departments, who I have tons of respect for. And one of the things that they've done is they've carried on a military tradition, which is to give challenge coins. And you know, the coin that I came up with obviously has our logo on it. It has on the back, it has a Cape Buffalo on it, because one of our acronyms we use is FEAR IS. And that is, you know, F being forging, E being elite, A being athletes, R being running, I into, S storm. So, you know, buffalo are different than cattle. When the storm comes over the horizon, over the west in the mountains, cattle tend to run from the storm. They want it out. They hope they can get away from it. And buffalo learn that when the storm comes over, if they'll run into the storm will actually go over them, and they will be able to then see brighter horizons once they run into it. And so that story I read, and I was like, you know, I like that. And one of the things that I've done with our team is just challenge them to, you know, everybody makes a New Year's resolution. I didn't want a New Year's resolution for myself. I didn't want one for the team. But what I did want is I wanted to encourage them to come up with one word. And I learned this from John Gordon. He's actually the author of several books that we've read, Power of a Positive Team, The Energy Bus. And John Gordon actually is the author of those books. And he's the one where I got this idea from, the one word. And so my word was, hey, let's come up with buffalo. And And I love that word because it reminds me to run into the storm. So when we put this coin together, you know, it's got the Cape Buffalo on it to remind us to run into the storm. It says run into the storm on it. Excuse me, it says fear is. It shows when we are established. It just gives us the roots of who we are. And then there's a brotherhood there. There's a brotherhood of, hey, listen, when you're walking around and we go to dinner, we do coin checks, right? Like, how much does it mean to you to be a part of that brotherhood? And if you can't make it here, then you cash your coin back in and you move on. It's not that we don't wish you bad. It's just can't eat at the same table. That's all, you know. And so there's a pride factor that comes with that too. There's an earned factor mostly though. You don't get that coin just because, you get it because you've earned it. And I feel like something like that gives us the inspiration from the military, gives us the inspiration from the working force, like the police and the firemen. And then lastly, I'd like to just say, one of the best coaches I think in the world right now is PJ Fleck, and he's the head coach of the Minnesota Gophers football team. And I was watching something on him, and I saw him have a challenge coin for his team, and I was like, man, I want to do that. And so these aren't my ideas that I came up with on my own. This is my self-exploration in finding ways to help us become better based on what other great organizations, great military, great fire, police, great coaches, what they've done. And so that, I encourage you guys to continue to do that, because your self-exploration and the time that we live in is so crazy cool that you can get online and you can learn almost anything today. One of those things you can learn is how to become great. But you can't just watch it and see it, you gotta then do it. And so that's the thing that I encourage everyone to do is, yes, go explore, but then put it in motion. Don't read the book just to read the book, to check the box that you read 12 books. Go take the things out of the books and start applying them today, tomorrow, this year, next year. Go do those things, because if you'll do that, then you grow. There's no such thing of a plateau if you decide to grow, but you can't grow if you don't take the things that are out there, the tools that are out there, and apply them. And that's the biggest thing. Why do we have a coin? Because we gotta grow. We got to change our best. PJ Fleck says that all the time. Wake up today and change your best. Be elite. And I believe that stuff. I preach it here, and I thank him for giving me the inspiration to do what I get to do here with these guys and impart that wisdom and challenge them to be great. So one thing most people don't know about me is I am actually a certified farrier, which is a horseshoer, and blacksmith. That's something that most people don't know about me. I come from both sides of my family. I grew up here in the inner city, but both sides of my extended family were homesteaded. One was homesteaded here in southern Colorado in 1850, and the other side of my family are cattle ranchers in Kansas. And so both sides of my mom and my dad's family are cattle rancher roots. And I've always been drawn to that. I've been sent away to go do some of that because I was getting in trouble here in Denver, in the inner city. And so I have two parts of me always, and I don't know if people understand that. I have this real inner city hood kid that grew up, but I also have this country kid that grew up being in the country and learning to be around horses and cattle and what it's like to run a cattle farm, ranch, and also hunting and fly fishing. Those are things that all kind of bleed together. And I went out as a young man right out of college, and I said, you know, I want to get certified as a horseshoer and a blacksmith. I want to have a trade that no one could ever take away from me, and I love horses, and I've always been great with animals. It's something that I've always been really good with. Most people don't know this either. You know, when you see the dog show on TV where they show the dogs and they have that, I did that as a child. I didn't want to do that, by the way. My father was like, you're gonna do this. And so I went and did it. I learned how to train a dog, and I would show my dog and I'd parade around. I was young, I was like 8 years old, and I'd do it in the adult division. And I have a bunch of ribbons that I've won, first place and best in show and those type of things, with a German short-hair pointer that was really a hunting dog. But my dad had these crazy dreams that he was going to get this show dog to be recognized and then breed these puppies and make money off of it. Anyway, the point is that what you don't know about me is that I'm a horseshoe and a certified blacksmith, and absolutely I had that little cord on the pretty little collar on the dog, and I paraded him around, and I did that thing as a young kid actually, and that's something that I feel like has given me the ability. I've tamed wild animals like horses, and I consistently tame these wild animals here on the mat in the cage. So that's something you don't know about me. I love that part of it. It's something I absolutely will continue to pass down to my kids. My son has a huge interest in wanting to learn how to blacksmith, and so I have a forge, I have all that stuff, and an anvil, all that stuff, in order to show him how to do that. And so I will absolutely pass that down to him, but that's something you guys don't know about me probably. I want to end by saying thank you to everybody that's tuned in. It's a pleasure getting an opportunity to share a little bit about myself with you. Hopefully you've gained some type of inspiration, but remember, inspiration is short-lived. You've got to go out and decide to change and grow. So I encourage you to continue to grow. I encourage you to enjoy the process. I encourage you to run into the storm. Remember, fear is forging elite athletes running into storms. You don't have to be an elite athlete to take that. Take that and run into that storm. Stop running away from them. When you find yourself running away from them, check yourself and say, hey, let's run into them. Huge thank you to comments from the Peanut Gallery, Jordan Kurtz. He's doing a phenomenal job, so thank you for the opportunity to do this. And for everybody out there, it's a pleasure getting to do this, and you continue to stay hungry and humble. Remember, I don't really love the word humble, so grounded is a better thing. So enjoy your day, love the process, run into that storm.